Je vais passer en français.
I'm going to switch to French. I know that many of you loved the Green Deal. Quite rightly, I would say. Now, with Margaret, our ambition is to get you to love the new digital decade as well. And we're going to talk about it a great deal. This is the first press conference that we're going to give at the moment, but we will give more and more over the coming months to share with you the progress, the efforts that we intend to carry out within the Commission, but as Margaret said, also with the Member States, so that we can ensure that our continent becomes, over the coming decade, the most connected continent in the world, with access for everyone to connectivity. No more connectivity black spots, broadband everywhere, safe and secure connections everywhere, hyper-secure connections even everywhere, including by using quantum technologies, and then also the continent which is the driving force, data-powered, for data and for industrial data. Now, obviously, that's the ambition that was recalled by our President, Mrs. von der Leyen, a couple of days ago, and which ties in with another ambition, which was expressed by Chancellor Angela Merkel, who hopes for our continent to have digital sovereignty. They were her words. So now we have a number of elements that we are going to present to you gradually over time. This is the first of such meetings, as Margaret Vestager has said. On the one hand, we want to talk about something which is extremely important when we are talking about digital sovereignty and the capacity of our continent to make it the most modern continent when it comes to data processing and data treatment. And it's also the first strand when it comes to connectivity. First of all, computing power.
Nécessaire. On en avait du reste déjà parlé. Alors,
It's very important.
Well, we've already talked a lot about this. We've heard a lot of talk about artificial intelligence. And we hear that we need to manage the data, know where it comes from, what's contained in it. And as regards this calculation power, and we all know what's happening in terms of microprocessors, there are some cases where, particularly in machine learning, that's an area that's going to be absolutely key. And it's very important to involve the member states in this ambition, and that we have that computer power. We want the most powerful computers in the world, and that requires investment. We need to attract investment, and we have some of the top 5 most powerful computers in the world in Europe. So it's important that we have that so that we can generate all of these added value services and to improve competitiveness, so that we can carry out operations in telemedicine, for example, traffic management, weather forecasting, for example. Heaven knows that's very important, particularly also in terms of surveillance of climate change. Well, as Mrs. Vestager has said, we're all very aware of this with the digital space, and particularly in the current circumstances when our movements can be restricted. We need to be able to continue our life. We need to be able to continue learning. And I think we realise that this aspect is an integral aspect of our life to continue moving forward. And that is the context, as Margaret has just recalled, that a decision was taken And a significant amount, a huge amount. Obviously, this is public and private investment, private, public monies. And in the years ahead, we have to ensure that particularly in terms of these joint undertakings, and since 2018, we have promoted this scenario, this situation, and the amounts are significant. So 1.5 billion euros, and as I say, 5 computers which are amongst the top 50 in the world. And again, it's co-financing Bulgaria, Slovenia, Luxembourg, the Czech Republic and Portugal. As well as that, we have 3 pre-EXCA sale computers. And there we're talking about the most powerful computers in the world, 1 billion operations per second. And they will be set up in a number of different countries, Italy, Finland and Spain. And this will allow us to develop services, applications, do research, obviously for the academic world, but also for all of our companies, our businesses, including the SMEs. You may say, well, what need do SMEs have for this type of computing power? But in a way, it's like you're supplying electricity. And they, even SMEs, can pay per use. So they can pay as they use. So we're in the process of creating an entire ecosystem. And we're the first continent, I think, to work in this manner. And this will be the driving power of what we're talking about, computing power. But obviously, in terms of companies that can build these types of computers, you're talking about very few across the world. But we're talking about, I think, 4 or 5 companies across the world. But Europe is in there as well. And as Commissioner Vestager said, this is all very important in terms of that goal of connectivity. Now, what can we note today? Well, there are a lot of projects planned, but we have to call it as it is. Unfortunately, we have the COVID crisis, which put a brake on a lot of investment. So there was a certain amount of investment that had been planned, and some of that investment may go ahead, some will be frozen, some may be simply cut, cancelled. But we need to work on, for example, fibres and rolling out 5G. So we need to get back, pick up those investments again. We cannot afford to fall behind because everyone needs to have access to this. This means that we have to incentivise everyone to try and catch up the lag if we are lagging behind. Now, at the moment, about 20% of the licenses for frequencies have been granted. We need to move forward on that because we are in competition with the rest of the world. And 5G, you can't talk enough about that. We need to also reduce energy consumption. We need to improve security. And we also need to promote innovation. Now, obviously, you can hear about caricatures of 5G, but there's a huge amount that can be done. For example, as I say, medicine, artificial intelligence, security. For example, security for connected vehicles, self-driving vehicles, transport, energy. All of those networks that are part of our life. And this is important also if we are to achieve our Green Deal objectives as well. And there's another important point which again was made this morning. Mrs. Vestager was in the Competitiveness Council, obviously, but digitalisation of the continent is an important tool, an important instrument in a cross-cutting, cross-border manner so that we can offer all of these new services. But you need to have compatibility. For example, in France, often we're still on 3G or 4G, so there can be disconnects or connections can drop when you cross borders. So that's not acceptable if you cross a border within the EU, that you lose your connectivity. So you also need harmonisation. We need to equip ourselves with this toolbox. There's also critical points that have been identified. For example, providers of 5G. Security is an important dimension there. You need to be able to ensure that your data is secure. But again, in that toolbox, you need a common joint instrument that all of the member states can share. They need to be able to share good practice so that good practice can be rolled out more quickly and high-speed networks can be rolled out more quickly in accordance with standards and arrangements that are accepted by everyone. In a way, the strength of these initiatives is not so much enforcement or what's required. It's basically that everyone comes around the table and you define together what you need. And that's an important aspect moving forward with the single market and the completion of the single market and the associated services. Last point, and again, Mrs. Vestager said, the 20%. Now, 20%, it's very important for the Commission, for both of us, that we have that 20% amount that the Commission will be redistributing to the Member States, be it in terms of loans or grants. Because 150 billion is a significant amount of money. So we need to use that amount of money well to improve knowledge, to improve skills, and to improve the digital sector, the digital economy. Now, obviously, we have flagships and the cloud to support industry and also microprocessors, connectivity, all of these flagship projects, which are trans-European projects. And obviously, we pay a lot of attention to that with you. Thank you.